A Mortal's Journey to Immortality Episode 209. In the previous episode, after parting ways with his former sect members, Han Li was unexpectedly reminded of his past, and of a woman he once deeply cared for. Nangong Wan, when he learned she had advanced to the Nascent Soul stage and was about to marry another cultivator. His calm heart wavered for the first time in centuries, though he concealed his turmoil behind a faint smile. The pain of that revelation lingered in his eyes. He soon discovered that Nangong Bing, the woman he once met under a different name, was in fact Nangong Wan herself. Hiding behind an altered appearance, shocked and conflicted, Han Li withdrew into silence, leaving his companions uneasy as their chariot drifted through the clouds. When they finally parted ways, even his fellow cultivators could only whisper in awe. Han Li's cultivation speed was beyond comprehension, a mere 2 centuries to reach Nascent Soul. To them, he was no longer a peer, but a figure who might one day ascend beyond their world entirely. And the episode continues. After some thought, Ni Yan smiled and said, "Brother Qian must be exaggerating. Although fellow Taoist Han managed to reach the Nascent Soul stage in such a short time. Reaching deity transformation is still far beyond reach. It isn't something that can be done so easily. In fact, if he reaches the late Nascent Soul stage, he would already be capable of proclaiming his own sect a hegemon of their side. That outcome seems much more likely." With a spirited glint appearing in his eyes, the cultivator surnamed Xian nodded slowly and said, "Hee, perhaps I do think too much. But if Senior Han avoids any mishaps, he will surely become a greatly influential figure in the heavenly south. Given his deep connections to Yellow Maple Valley, if he were to join us, I believe it wouldn't be long before we could reclaim the state of Yu." Lei Wanhei let out a sigh after a moment of silence and said, "Connections? Fellow Taoist, you must understand that although Senior Han originally came from Yellow Maple Valley, he is now an elder of the Heavenly Tao Alliance's Drifting Cloud sect. He has no intention of returning. Regardless of which sect he belongs to, Yellow Maple Valley cannot hope to sway him." The others were momentarily speechless. The giant sword sect cultivator asked doubtfully, "Why does Senior Han treat your sect this way? After all, that was his home. Does he intend to repay the kindness the sect has given him?" Lei Wanhei shook his head and replied, "I cannot reveal all the details, but the odds aren't favorable. However, it seems that Senior Han has a deep relationship with Masked Moon Sect's Senior Nangong. Perhaps Senior Nangong can try speaking with him. Even if he doesn't rejoin our 6 sects, at least a good relationship could be formed." Tang Minghua responded thoughtfully, "That might be possible. I will have to return to the sect and inquire about the nature of Senior Han's relationship with Martial Ant Nangong. Leave it be. Roping in a Nascent Soul stage cultivator is beyond us. Let the elders handle it. This Senior Han is expected to appear at the ceremony in 3 months. Lei Wanhei said, glancing around before frowning. "Regardless, we should hurry back to the 9 Nations Union. It isn't safe here." Hearing this, the others fell silent and swiftly took to the skies. Though Lei Wanhei spoke effortlessly, inwardly he was troubled. How could he inform Ancestor Ling Hu that a disciple he had once abandoned had become as powerful as the ancestor himself? Moreover, Han Li's resentment toward Yellow Maple Valley only complicated matters. Sharing this would be tantamount to directly rebuking his martial senior. He could only sigh repeatedly along the journey, gloomily continuing on his way. Meanwhile, Han Li, having left Lei Wanhei and the others behind, put away the conspicuous wind-riding chariot and began flying using ordinary light. He had just received troubling news about Nangong Wan, and needed to calm himself to think carefully. In the past, he and Nangong Wan had only been intimate once and had only met a couple of times. Because of the vast difference in cultivation, they had treated each other as indifferent strangers. But now, after successfully forming his golden core and reaching Nascent Soul, Han Li felt worthy of her, and the thought that Nangong Wan was about to become Tao companions with someone else shook him to his core. He knew he could not pretend ignorance. In Han Li's mind, the only man who could marry Nangong Wan in this lifetime was himself. Moreover, as the man who had taken Nangong Wan's vital yin, He believed she must harbor some feelings for him. He could not allow the celebration to proceed smoothly. Han Li weighed his options carefully. He could either go to the Masked Moon sect immediately and attempt to stealthily take Nangong Wan away, or wait for the celebration 3 months later and make his move openly. Each approach had its advantages. The first method was easier, but he doubted whether Nangong Wan would leave willingly. She had spent years at the Masked Moon sect and had become an elder. Leaving without objections would be unlikely. The second option, appearing at the celebration, was far more challenging. He would have to confront the Masked Moon sect, the 6 sects of Yu, and even the 9 Nations Alliance. However, success would allow him to take Nangong Wan in a just and honorable manner, ensuring no future troubles. There was, of course, a third, simpler method, eliminating Wei Lycan entirely. But this was the most dangerous approach. The Flowing Mind sect was not small, it was the largest sect in the 9 Nations Union, boasting 5 nascent soul stage elders, far stronger than the Drifting Cloud sect. Any attempt to act against Wei Lycan could expose Han Li to extreme retaliation. After much deliberation, Han Li decided on a compromise. First, he would hurry to the Masked Moon sect to ascertain Nangong Wan's intentions. If she hesitated or faced difficulties leaving, he might risk confronting the Flowing Mind sect and attempt to eliminate Wei Lycan. If that failed, he would simply wait for the celebration and openly propose to her. Regardless of circumstances or her willingness, he was determined to take her away. Few things in his life had stirred such resolve in him, normally guided by reason rather than emotion. This time he would act solely from the heart. With his course of action decided, Han Li's spirits lifted. He increased his flight speed and quickly traveled toward the Masked Moon sect. Meanwhile, the 6 sects of Yu, having been defeated, had sought refuge within the 9 Nations Alliance. They established themselves in the state of Beliong, a sparsely populated country with limited cultivation resources. They could not afford to be choosy in selecting who would join the 6 sects. And constant conflict with local sects had left them with far inferior resources compared to their original lands. Over the years, the 6 sects gradually regained strength, and the Masked Moon sect emerged as the strongest among them, occupying a mountain range rich in spirit veins. The Gemcut Mountains, where the sect was based, were divided into 3 levels, the lowest for low-grade cultivators, the middle for core formation cultivators, and the top for those beyond, with only the most skilled allowed at higher levels. Among the sect's stewards, all but one, Yuan Kun, the Mortal Affairs Steward, were Foundation Establishment cultivators. Yuan Kun, a Qi condensation cultivator, owed his position to the Yuan clan, who had helped the Masked Moon sect when it first arrived in Beliong. Though lacking prospects in cultivation, Yuan Kun managed his duties smoothly, drawing on connections and handling tasks without error. However, within the sect, low-grade cultivators respected him little, and the other stewards looked down on him due to the rules of seniority. Undeterred, Yuan Kun lived his days leisurely, unaware of the danger closing in. One day, Yuan Kun ventured to a nearby mortal village with 2 lower cultivation disciples to purchase everyday goods. But unbeknownst to him, after passing through 3 of these stores, an indiscernible trace of spiritual sense stealthily wrapped around his clothes. Attentively watching this trifling Qi condensation cultivator. And that wraps up this episode. In this part, we saw Han Li's determination and careful planning as he faced a complicated situation involving Nangong Wan. After learning that she might be forming a Dao companion relationship with someone else, Han Li realized he could not simply stand by. He carefully weighed his options, whether to approach her directly, attempt a stealthy solution against Wei Lycan, or wait for the celebration and act openly. Ultimately, he decided on a balanced plan. First, he would go to the Masked Moon sect to gauge Nangong Wan's intentions. And then, depending on her response and the situation, he would consider his next steps. Meanwhile, we also got a glimpse of the political and cultivation landscape of the 6 sects of Yu and the Masked Moon sect. The sects had struggled to regain their footing after past conflicts and were now rebuilding their strength in Beliong. We learned about the Gemcut Mountains structure. the sect hierarchy, and the unique position of Yuan Kun, the mortal affairs steward, who, though seemingly ordinary, was about to become unknowingly involved in events far greater than himself. This episode highlighted not only Han Li's strategic mind and unwavering determination but also the complex web of relationships, power, and personal stakes that surround him. It reminds us that every decision he makes carries both risk and opportunity, and that his journey is far from over. If you enjoyed this episode or found it exciting, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to get notifications for the latest episodes following Han Li's adventures. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again in the next episode.